Get ready to turn your streaming experience up to 11 because you've just landed on twitch.tv/ G0R the number 4TH. That's right, Gorath. A Twitch name so difficult, it's a miracle he has an audience at all. If you're looking to watch a stream that's of moderate quality, you're in the right place. Be prepared to constantly remind the host to change his video settings because he keeps leaving it windowed so you can see more of his face and less of the action. You're gonna marvel at how long the stream goes for. If you haven't sat down to watch Heroes of the Storm get played for 17 hours, you haven't been at twitch.tv/Goldrath. Now that you're here, prepare to marvel as Bo is somehow always taking a break right when you settle in to watch. You'll be amazed how a stream so long can take so many breaks. And you'll marvel at Bo's incredible dedication to the game as he constantly says, "I don't really know what's happening here."
What's going on?
You're going to be absolutely astounded by his high-quality stream featuring animated GIFs, overlays, his face in multiple different places, little hexagons, and him looking around. He's also got custom "I'll be right back" screens, which you'll see a lot of because he's always going to be right back. Watch as he climbs the ladder in Hero League, except not really. Welcome to the Plat Zone, Bo. But wait, there's more. What's that you said? You want to sit around and watch a 10-minute movie at the end of every stream? Well, Bo's stream will be the one for you. At twitch.tv/Gorath, you're gonna get treated to the entire Hanamura cinematic every time he stops recording. Bo's stream is so fantastic and amazing. It raised money to feed Bo. He used that money to eat a hamburger out of a bush. That's a true story, even if it sounds super weird. It totally happened. So one final time, welcome to twitch.tv/Gorath, your number one source for all things Bo. Do you want to see his face? You're gonna see it a lot. Do you want to hear him say weird things? You're gonna hear it.
Oh my god, I'm coming!
Do you want strange production values? You're gonna find it here, buddy. And if you want that strange Canadian politeness mixed in with the saltiness of a Heroes of the Storm player, then this is gonna be perfect for you. Occasionally, Bo brings his friends in to play with him, and then he blames them for all his troubles because his friends are bad, but Bo is good. You're gonna want to keep playing, keep watching, so keep it tuned to twitch.tv/Gorath.
Okay, that was a sick play. You guys saw that, right?
That's G, the number 0, R, the number 4, TH. You're probably gonna want to bookmark it, 'cause nobody will remember.
All right, guys. Hello, hello. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. Sorry about that. What is going on? What the shit is going on? I'm here. I'm here. Here to talk about things, I guess. So there's an AMA going on, apparently. Apparently. Oh shit, what the hell is this, man? Hang on. Okay, hang on. Let me just get my computer normal. Work lurking. All right. Well, hello to you. Hello to you. That's a great idea. Sign up for the closed beta Vertex Stadium. Licensed by Valve? Oh, shit. Yo! That sounds amazing. Why is my camera so goofy? Sorry. Yoink. I'll see that again. I'm going to watch it in slow-mo. So they're gonna have games like integrated also into 3D space. Yo, that's sick. I'm Eastern. It's 2 p.m., right? This is exciting. Holy shit. Hang on. I gotta share this out to the team. Oh, I thought I turned off the capture. Oops. Can't be giving out my Steam business. Thankfully, Steam streamer mode is in effect. Okay. Sorry. So like that is just I imagine, we just watch League on a flat screen. It's like whatever. But that looks like it has a map. I don't know what game that is though. That's CS2. That's awesome. Imagine Overwatch doing the 3D thing. Be sick. Do not know what game that is. I think that's probably one of the VR esports games. Actually looks pretty cool. Okay, I'm sure explosions like that won't really... Oh, maybe they will. Actually. That's where the bomb went off. Vertex Stadium. Cool. I'm into it. Excuse me. All right, it's on Steam. So I'm going to go ahead and wish list it. Or I wonder if I could even download it. Sign up for beta. Vertex Stadium. It's going to be free. Add to your wish list. All right. Request access. Welcome. Oh, I'm in the play. I'm in. All right, let's install that bad boy. All right, we're gonna download that. Now it is 1:57, so I got to find this this live stream, right? He said he was gonna be doing it on Twitch for the Ghostcrawler AMA, I think, right? Right. Yeah, going live. I see he'll link his post. Okay. Thousand people watching. Nice. I think I'll just simply repost. And we'll repost. All right, I wasn't sure if a lot of people will be watching this sort of thing or not, but clearly, at least 1,000 people have showed up, so that's awesome. Excited to see frog pissing, whatever that may be. Yeah, we'll see what's going on. I'm trying not to say anything because maybe I know something. I don't want to say anything. So don't pull my Johnson, please. Stream is coming, it says here. I don't know much, just the TLDR. But still, I don't want to steal any thunder. It's cool that you're covering this. Yeah, I thought it'd be fun. It's like, you know, React content. Whoa, shit. There we go. Let me know if it's loud enough for you guys. Obviously, that's just a little bit of music, but I want you to be able to hear Ghostcrawler. I assume it's just going to be Ghostcrawler. Oh my.
Hello, fellow kids. Welcome to the first FPC live stream. I'm Greg Street. I started this studio, and I'm also the game director for our MMO that we call Ghost.
How is that, guys?
You are probably wondering what is going on.
His mic is low.
And we don't have an office space. And one of our values is
I have it cranked. See?
So we
Oh, you don't see, but I have it cranked.
Space we could for our stream today.
The stream is quiet.
And I brought some of the team here to help answer your questions. So why don't you guys introduce yourself?
Hey, my name's Cameron. I'm the Chief Technology Officer. That means I support the engineering team who are building the tech for the game. Thanks so much for being here with us.
Hi, my name's David Kublak. I'm the art director. I support basically design, code, everything with creating content for art and design.
Hey everyone, I'm Ed, UX Director for Ghost, and I do everything from controls to UI to the occasional presentation, prettifying, And for my friends out there in my Sapphire Guild, if you are not watching this, you're probably loot locked next week, so enjoy.
How's that,
Hi,
guys?
I'm Christina. I'm head of product, which means I look at things like user research and how do we build a game
I've loaded it up a bit. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shanti. I'm the head of the IP.
I got to be
We're
louder
making
because
a
I'm the
brand new
reactor.
universe for this game
I have
from
to
the
talk
ground
over
up
them.
to support the gameplay, but also be a place that we hope you can come and enjoy for a couple decades. So very happy to be here.
And hello, I'm Brian. I'm the gameplay design director. So my job is mostly around the classes and the combat and the traversal and basically everything you do when you press a button and punching monsters, those types of things.
Punching monsters.
Yes.
My name is Candace. I'm the content design director, which means I dabble in things like red and blue shards, the cities, raids, quests, dungeons, the open world, all that fun stuff. And I do the monsters and enemies, which you, as aforementioned, punch.
We were limited on the number of golden couches we can fit in this room. So we have a bunch of other people in the studio. Just want to shout out to them as well. You'll be seeing a lot of this crew, and you'll be seeing a lot of the whole team. So let me start just by talking a little bit about Ghost before we get to your questions. I want to stress we're in early development, and that means the art and ideas are not final. And that's the whole point. We want to share all this with you early so that we can get feedback, make changes, and make the game better before we are finally live. We think the right way to tackle a project as big as an MMO is to be careful about where and how we innovate. We think this is a risk when you try to innovate too much. That's what leads to a MMO with a dev cycle of 10 to 15 years, and ain't nobody up here wants that. We're going to be really careful where we do innovate. A great example are several of us came from World of Warcraft, and we love WoW's Dungeons and Raids. We don't think there is a lot we need to do there differently. We'll put our own spin on it. It's a different game. It's a different IP. But overall, we're not going to spend a lot of points innovating on things like that. However, we think adventuring, like going out into the world, doing quests, kind of figuring out where you're supposed to go next, has not aged super well. And we think that is a great opportunity to innovate. So I want to talk a little bit about that. So our game is set in a shattered world where players look out into the sky from a mysterious ancient city and see countless shards of broken worlds waiting to be discovered. This is some of our latest concept art for that setting, but I also want to show you how this has already evolved. When the team was first brainstorming about the world, I got excited and made my own sketch of how the shards might float above the city.
Right? Like there's this
and
weird
everyone
rock
teased
here.
me about it mercilessly. And so I drew it again in Photoshop where it looked tiny bit better, and we used this for our first several pitch decks. This is what game development looks like. It starts looking pretty bad. You make it better and better. You hire better artists who can actually draw, and eventually you should be able to produce something pretty cool. Our art teams took these concepts and got us to our latest vision, which we'll continue to experiment with further. This is by far not the final way the game will look. So you probably get the idea that one of the major focuses for us is creating two different types of world shards for players to explore. We're calling these red shards are like more traditional MMO zones with lots of danger, dungeons, and world bosses. This is where you'd find most of the dungeons and raids in the game, and other players, particularly strangers, are really important here. A player on Twitter compared them to WoW's Timeless Isle, and that's a great way to think about it. And then our blue shards will be more of a private realm for you and your friends. The design draws on some inspiration from survival games, but it's not about starving or freezing to death. It's more about you charting your own path the way you want. And while the red shards offer a consistent theme park experience for every player, the blue shards open up individualized and different sandboxes for you and whoever you choose to let in with you. The basic loop of Ghost when you play is you'll go back and forth between the blue shards and red shards. Perhaps you need an important reagent for your next upgrade that can only be found in the red shards. Or maybe your friends let you know that a rare boss just appeared and that boss drops great loot, but you'll need to assemble a small army to go and dispatch it.
It's like player housing, but on crack cocaine. Like you have your own whole realm.
Now we think the opportunity
sounds
here
like
is that when
the
you're
idea.
playing on a blue shard, your actions will be permanent. Whether you deplete a mine or clear out
We're
a
watching
dungeon
the
or a dragon's
Ghostcrawler new MMO
If you want to build
AMA.
a village for you and your friends, there won't be random players walking through to mess up the experience. If you want to set up a guild versus guild PvP shard, you won't have to worry about random arrivals later on causing
I think every
imbalance.
player gets their own realm. I don't think it's a
without
guild
random
thing.
players, you don't really have an MMO, right?
It could be.
So the red shards are where you get that massive multiplayer
I don't know what the
experience
scope
that we
of
all love.
what they're going to provide is.
Now, it's easy to talk about world shards in a way that sounds really dry or even disconnected, and honestly, systems designers are really good at doing that, which is why developing the world of Ghost is really important to us as well. Our goal is for Ghost to be immersive, mysterious, and worthy of your time and investment. We take inspiration from everything from Elden Ring to D&D's Planescape.
Ooh,
Because we want the
Planescape.
world of Ghost to be a fresh take on the fantasy genre,
Name drop
we're experimenting
Planescape,
with a
huh?
lot of different types of creatures and races you'll encounter, and that work even carries into class design. We want to have a lot of classes, and while you probably won't find something as basic as warrior or mage, some of the classes will be familiar, and then some of them will honestly be a little weird, like this room. We hope everyone can create characters and find classes that fit the playstyle they love, but alts are also core to the idea of playing Ghost, so experimenting with different classes should feel rewarding and not like you're falling behind. Our classes are organized into different factions, and these factions are working secretly against each other, sometimes with each other, to determine the future of the city. The factions don't limit who you can play with. This isn't about preventing you from playing with your friends. They're just there to give the classes some depth and motivation to help drive our narrative.
This is
You can see here some
sharpshooter,
visual exploration
Gatling,
of one of our earlier factions.
rope burn.
But I want to stress,
What?
not every faction would adopt this art style, and there will be a gamut from dark and serious to cute and silly and probably even dangerously sexy. So with that, we'd like to get into some of your questions, and I want to introduce one more member of the team. John is our biz guy, and he is going to be our MC for today.
Hey, John.
Yay, John.
Hi, John.
Hey everyone. So I've nominated myself responsible for reading the questions out to the team. We'll start with the first one, Brian. This one is a heavy-hitting question, but it was one of the most upvoted. So Towel the Tank asks, will there be tanks in your game? And if so, how many?
Well, I'm not surprised. I know Tali's a great guy, so I'm not surprised that his tweet was well-liked in addition. Yes, there are certainly going to be tanks in our game, but I think we want to look at and revisit what tanks mean to the group in terms of gameplay, right? What do they do on a second-per-second basis? Does the boss always have to be hitting them or their tank buddy? Could it just be that there are key moments where the tank needs to be there to defend their team against a huge attack?
More like a MOBA.
Or is it possible that there's just a big guy in the group that, like when you see Marvel's Endgame, that the Hulk's got to match up with the big brute of Thanos' crew there. So just trying to find, and explore different options there. And that could mean that we have, some tanks that are in melee as they traditionally are. Maybe we have pet class tanks. Maybe we have range tanks. I don't know. It'd be cool to hear what you all think about those types of things. And when we do experiments and explore that, have you try them?
I like the idea that you do no
tanks.
tanks.
That's a great question.
Thanks, Brian.
Everyone fight.
This one's for you,
Everyone,
Shanti, from Ritzadet,
the heavier
asks,
classes
will the
protect the
game's story,
squishier
world, and
classes, but it's not a
inhabitants
tank
treat each player
designation.
character as if they
You use
are
your
the hero?
toolkit to peel
That's a great question.
and protect.
A lot of RPGs
actual
have the benefit of
D&D
having
and
one
stuff.
player, and they can kind of be the center of the story. MMORPGs have thousands and thousands of players, and so it's a little bit more unwieldy to have something like the Chosen One, because you have to ignore all the other thousands of Chosen Ones around you. What we're going with is something much closer to how Destiny does it, for an example, where you're part of an elite crew, an elite group that has powers greater than the average NPC or civilian you see on the street. This gives us room to introduce NPC characters, develop their arcs alongside you, and kind of have it feel like, you don't have the entire burden of the universe on your shoulders. You have others to bear it with and adventure alongside.
That sounds good. It's probably the right middle ground for a hero-based sort of game.
From at xmadson, what is the reason for having blue shards and red shards? It seems like blue shards are their own survival game base builder that's separate from the MMO. Why can't this exist in the red shards or vice versa?
I think the superpower of our game is in the blue shards. And when we say that you're going to play blue shards, it could mean that you're just playing one blue shard for the entire season or the entire expansion, just like building and decorating your base and killing monsters and stuff like that. But it can also mean that you're playing several blue shards. You could play hundreds of blue shards or maybe even just dozens. The idea behind blue shards is that we're always going to give you a lot of variety. So we love exploration. We love the exploration element of survival games. And since these blue shards are kind of generated just for you and your party, we can always throw some cool, like, wacky surprises at you. Like, what if it hailed razor blades and you had to keep shelter nearby? Or what if the world was just slowly crumbling around you and you had to, like, collect as many resources as you can and get the hell out before it falls? So one is like the exploration angle. Two is the shared progression. We love shared progression in survival games. So things like upgrading your crafting bench so that everyone else can use that crafting bench.
We're talking
and, like,
about
submitting
Valheim.
your recipes to it, and like that sense of community that you really only get in survival games. And now imagine you can take that character, you can take that community, and then like inject that
this
into
sounds
the
like
traditional MMO
what the
that has all
canceled
the raids
Blizzard,
and
not
dungeons.
canceled,
And you're getting like a mix
the
of
Blizzard
your gear
project
from
that
both
was
of these blue
announced.
shards that you're investing in.
It kind of
that
has
you're
that
playing
vibe to it,
multiple of,
right?
And then the red shards that you're more used to.
We don't
doing
know
things
much
like
about
base
it, but,
story, dungeons, raids, world bosses, all the cool stuff. Like we really want to concentrate the cool stuff about like the open world experience, so that we can kind of like divide the experience between like, here's your exploration loop and here's your like static loop.
Yeah, I mean,
Great.
it's
Okay,
everything's in
well,
the early
next
phases
question
right
over to
now.
Ed. This one comes from @MysticalOS, who asks, do you plan on supporting UI mods? And if so, will they be curtailed to not create the arms race present in WoW, or will you take the Final Fantasy approach?
Ooh, that's a good one. Spicy. I know, it's spicy. Thanks for the question, Mr. OS. Big fan. So I think you've astutely called out like that there is a pretty big risk to doing something like add-ons in the context that say like WoW does them, right? Where you can get to the point where you've got all these interesting fights with great mechanics, and then you have people who are sort of just in this arms race with the developer to like build add-ons that play the game for you, right? Shout out to Foji and WoW Classic for doing this for my raid in Wrath of the Lich King. And so I think that's something that we probably don't want as much of. I think the combat modifying add-ons world is probably not one we want to live in. But while we don't know exactly what we're going to do, there's probably some great use cases for exploring add-ons, and I'll try to talk about a couple of them. So, like, examples that come to mind for me are things like, imagine that there is an accessibility feature that we maybe just haven't been able to prioritize yet, but a passionate developer in the community could build it for the game, and that could enable new people to play who wouldn't otherwise be able to play. Like, I think that's awesome. And likewise, there are just players who have strong preferences about how their UI should look, and they may not be in the realm of what the base customization in the game allows. And so allowing someone to serve those needs, I think, is good. So I'm not exactly sure where we're going to go. One thing I can say is I think we know that we have a responsibility to ensure that a player can download, pick up, and play our game without using add-ons, if that was something that we had. And not have to worry about, like, we've all probably experienced that thing where we're trying to onboard a friend. It's like, okay, download the game, then like install these 80 add-ons, right?
2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. And then like
Half of them are
6
broken.
hours later after you've configured them, you're tired and you don't end up playing. So like, I think we want to avoid that world no matter what. And TBD on like exactly what we do with add-ons and which kind that we support if we do that at all or whatever. Yeah.
All right, Greg, this next one's addressed to you from @DakoTiak, who says, more and more systems-heavy games seem to be dominated by the soulless quest of optimization at the expense of social decency. Greg mentioned social play is what makes MMO special. What's your strategy to keep optimization from destroying the social fabric of the game?
So peeling back the curtain a little bit here, the historical business model for a lot of MMOs was to keep players playing as much as possible, because that's where the revenue comes from. And we don't think that has aged super well. Like when Baldur's Gate 3 came out, I wanted to just play a lot of Baldur's Gate 3. And if I had been raiding or something at the time, that might have been an issue for my guild. If you're a hardcore raider, like my friend Ed here, that may be fine. You may want to raid all the time. And we know that the optimization game is fun for some players. They want to try to, like, first you beat the boss, then you try to beat your friend's DPS. Like, we get it. And that's fine. But we really are trying to design Ghost to fit in your life. And because we're releasing the story in chapters,
got really
if you
loud.
feel like you've kind of
Oh my God.
seen the end
My
and you want
ears.
to take a break for a little while, like, that's fine. We're not going to get mad at that. And we're going to try to make sure all the systems in the game can support that. So if you want to push blue shards, if you want to
It's
keep
killing my
trying to
ears.
do
That
harder
was
and
so
harder,
loud.
harder raids or engage in PvP, like, all good, and we'll support that. But if you want to make room for other games or, God forbid, work with your family, you could do that as well. God forbid.
Yeah, so like, I mean, Valheim
Great.
feels
Okay,
that
next
way,
question
right?
over to
This
Brian.
raid bot, you're not
With
really
respect to combat,
trying to
the
play every
website
week to
describes
keep up.
targeting in such a way that it's
Interesting.
not clear if it means tab targeting or fixed combat. Will it be real-time combat like we see in New World, Black Desert Online, and so forth, or will it be a hybrid like Guild Wars 2?
I think the short answer is more of a hybrid. The long answer is that, first and foremost, our game is to be playable on the PC with a mouse and keyboard, right? We feel like there are millions of MMO players out there. They're very comfortable in that environment, and being able to click on individual targets, being able to hit tab to select them, that's something they're used to. And it's a very approachable model, right? There's a lot of people that you've been probably able to introduce to MMOs in the past, and they're very quickly able to get into the game, right? And we want that. We want, one of the most important things about playing this game is playing with your friends. And so part of that is making sure that it's approachable for everyone. What we also want to do, though, is we want to make sure that it can be played with a controller. And so that has certain challenges, right? And certain things we might have to do differently. And so
They don't
we're
have a lot of
exploring other
buttons.
ways that you would do targeting, more of like what we often call like a soft lock targeting system, where you're maybe on a controller and the right stick moves the camera, and it's basically doing tab targeting for you. It's selecting a target based on where your crosshair is looking. And then trying to add a lot of mechanics from popular action combat games that you might see, like Shadows of Mordor or even Spider-Man or Assassin's Creed. There's a lot of things they do with combos and assassinations and counters that we think we can bring into MMO combat and make it a bit more interactive and physical and interesting. So that's kind of where we're at in terms of targeting and combat at this time.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think, you brought up controller, right? And I think, like, we've been exploring just on the team already, like, how can more fine-grained targeting work with a controller, right? Yeah. That's something that we would need to have even if we otherwise had tab targeting. So there's stuff like that I think we're already digging into, which is exciting. And I don't know, maybe we'll share it with players online or something at some point and get feedback and talk about it, because I think that'd be really fun to do.
And to delve into it just a little bit more, like, one of the greatest challenges we've talked about is healing, right? So how are you going to heal on a controller? And so, you've been doing some really cool prototyping on that. And I think it's pretty cool. I think players will be excited about what we have, and we'll be happy to share that.
I don't know, man.
Find and ship
I guess,
Or they'll hate it.
Yeah, or they'll hate it. One of the two.
We'll change.
We'll change it. Yeah.
All right, let's
That's
keep
fun.
moving here. So over to you, Koob. A question from Anon-Opinion87. What is the art direction of the game? More stylized like WoW or more realistic?
Yeah,
Will it be built in a way that it won't become outdated graphically with options for visual upgrades in the future? Will it be third person or isometric or something else?
That is a lot of questions.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the art style one. This is it, right?
No.
No, I think I think when we were going through the slideshow earlier, there was a wide range of things that we were showing, and that goes also back to some of the things that we were saying in the beginning. We are early in development. In that early development, we're exploring the boundaries of where we want to go with the look of the game. With the tone of what we're trying to do with the narrative and the IP, we know we're not going to be too stylized or cartoony, but we also know, to your point of things that end up being dated, this is a game that we want players to love and play, not just for years to come, but for decades to come.
Wow,
so it
pretty
also
ambitious.
won't be a game that is ultra realistic. So in this kind of like process, we'll kind of be working to refine where that actual direction is. And I think the third part of your question about the camera, I think we can lock it in that it is going to be a third-person camera, not isometric.
Unless you hate it, and then we'll change.
Yeah,
Our motto.
You all got to hate it, though.
As long as one person likes it, we're going with it.
Chat seems happy so far with that response. So we'll,
oh, good.
Okay.
All right, we can keep our job.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
This is funny.
So this next question, actually, I'll cheat and ask two in one. The first is, knowing oceanic servers would be a pipe dream, in what ways will you design the game to reduce the impact of higher ping on being able to effectively play? And then a related second question, will this game have cross-server grouping for players? Can NA play with EU homies? Cam, that feels, as our resident Australian expert and CTO, that feels like a good set of questions for you.
Yeah, for start, I love this question because I'm an Australian, and growing up in Australia and wanting to play MMOs when they first came out, it was really hard. And so I actually didn't get to play MMOs for a really long time. And so I can really empathize, and it's really important to me that we actually solve this. I think the combat that Brian described actually can make the game quite latency friendly, and so we can have players playing with each other from all over the world. I don't think it's the right answer to just say, we'll have oceanic servers. I think the right answer is to make it that you can be part of the worldwide community. And so that also goes to the second part of this question, which was about how easy is it going to be to group with friends? It needs to be easy. Like, one of the core tenets of our game is that you can play with your friends. And so if you then had to do like some kind of weird transfer or play on a different server or not have your characters, that would be a pretty terrible experience. And so we're pretty committed to that.
It's very much sounded like MMO Valheim, honestly. I'm sure there's more to it than that, obviously, but you know, you have a survival game. If the survival game can keep you entertained even without going to the MMO world, pretty ambitious, but I guess you got to be ambitious at the start of a big project, and I'm sure it'll get whittled down as it goes. Maybe. I don't know how much they've already started.
Yeah, Greg, how?
Want me to take this one? Procedure generation like AI or just like soulless random games? Probably can't answer fast enough to make this work, but
I don't know. Yeah.
I'll answer it both ways. We're relying a lot on variability and random generation for our blue shards, but we take a lot more inspiration from, I mean, several of us worked on Age of Empires, which has random maps, or Civilization. Those are not procedurally generated in the sense that it's just a bunch of empty fields and maybe the field is green or maybe it's brown or maybe there's a bush. Like, we want to make sure these maps are fun to explore and that you see cool things on them and that adventuring is fun. Sometimes procedural generation creates like a soulless experience where you have a great quantity of places to explore, but none of them are that interesting. That's the exact opposite of what we're going for. We want the experience of starting a new blue shard to be really exciting because you don't know what you're going to find.
No, I think they're still early in development. They're very much talking like they want this to be quick, not long development cycle like Star Citizen.
You'll find
but
things like side missions. You'll find things like recurring.
I wouldn't expect
characters.
anything
We have
for a
lot of
few
tricks up
years.
our sleeve to make it feel like it's still one contiguous world. The other thing that we're exploring that could make it feel really cool is like giving the player a modicum of control over their blue shard. So it's not just randomly procedurally generated, this is what you get. What if you could do things like adjust the difficulty? What if you could do things like adjust the season, or even bigger things like that? Like, what if you could turn on rules that let you turn on PvP permanently and kill other players and loot their bodies? Like, we want to give you so much control over this thing that it feels like you're breaking the game. Now, does that mean that you can just crank the difficulty to easy and like get all of your gear? Probably not. We're going to control the things that you need to get, the scarcity of resources, stuff like that. That's on the red shards. But when it comes to blue shards, we really want to let you play your way, and we want to get pretty freaking radical about it. And so I don't have anything to show right now, but hopefully we get to do some more deep dives on what blue shards actually are, because I feel like we've really only scratched the surface on what we want to do with these blue shards.
Blue shards
so,
sound like
yes,
it's an MMO sandbox, and you get your resources from the red
because
shards.
You have your own spin that you can put on them, but also because the stuff that you do in your blue shards is not going to be soulless. You're going to be creating a community with your friends. You're going to be narratively, you're going to be uniting this shard with like the rest of the world. You're like saving fragments of a dying world, and there's a lot that I could talk about that we probably can't get into in the AMA. I'm very sorry, but we're very passionate about it. We have a lot of ideas, and we hope that you'll like them. And also, we're hoping that we'll get your feedback along the way. Keep us accountable. You know, if it feels soulless, tell us.
We'll change it.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's going to be your blue shard is your own MMO world, and you go out into regular MMO worlds to gather resources to build your own MMO.
social. So a question that was submitted earlier from Woover was...
EverQuest played with the sandbox thing and it died on a vine? Yeah, but WoW came out during that period, and
I understand the game needs to make money, obviously, but NetEase makes me think
this is a
the MTX
this is a much different team than the Sony Online people. I've played lots of Sony Online entertainment games.
We have not
finalized
our
Jank doesn't
business
begin
model
to
yet, but
express
honestly, it's
some of
probably
what
gonna be
come out of
something
that
like
studio.
you pay for a
Sorry,
box
I played
or
PlanetSide
a
forever.
subscription
I know what I'm talking about.
Certainly, it's not going to be like a free-to-play game with microtransactions.
This is a fresh team with pretty seasoned people on it. In a time where we have games that have been successful that use this stuff. So
crazy offer of they want to fund us and let us kind of make whatever game we want with whatever team we
I mean,
want.
Smedley was like, on PlanetSide 2, Smedley was going nuts with all he wanted to add in that game. He came out and was like, he wanted to add like aircraft carriers, and like none of it came to fruition.
It's awesome, and I think that is what has allowed us to attract so many great people to work on the game. But again, love to hear feedback. Even once we start talking about the business model, that's the kind of stuff that we'd like to have. We want players to feel good about spending money.
Great. Next question then from Ciro in chat. You've mentioned a lot of classes. While it's obviously too early for an exact number, is there a ballpark for how many you plan to launch with? Maybe over to Brian for that?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked from anywhere from 20 to 50. I think one of the things to focus on with the number of classes is that playing the game, we expect you to play a bunch of different classes. And so there may not be as much depth in terms of customization and taking a single class into 3 to 4 different directions. But it's more going to be that, this class, it's very easy for my rat catcher to not look like Greg's rat catcher.
There it is.
And for us to have some choices in how we catch our rats, but not necessarily that the rat catcher can do 4 different roles. And
the smart thing here is they're not making another World of Warcraft.
I think in that respect, we're going to.
They're not doing that
we
MMO.
can really go deep
It sounds
on the
like,
rat
which
catcher
is
fantasy,
smart.
because we only have to say this.
Not
is
a
what
WoW
rat
clone
catchers
for what
do.
I'm hearing.
Right? And so I think that's part of what we're talking about here. So yeah, something in the 20 to 50 space is what we've been throwing around.
Rat
catchers, by the way, is it's like a joke on our team, but don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see it.
Yes.
It is too late
We say
now.
we won a lot of classes.
I mean, they're laughing,
out
but
there.
rat
It's
catchers
out
are in
there.
Vermintide, right? Kinda.
One thing is with having lots of classes. Sure, I mean, it's not going to be like rat catchers our only class, but part of it is, yes, we're going to have, as Greg alluded to in the opening, we're going to have those traditional things that you want to be. There's some guy who wants to be.
I don't know if it's going to be a WoW
running
killer
around smacking
retake.
things, and wants somebody to be. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Bajira will. Maybe if he's out there now, and
But
sure
it's
there'll
going to be able to
somebody in
live
long
without
robe,
stepping on the
who wants
toes
to cast
of
spells,
a
and we'll
similar
have,
product.
roles or classes for those type of people who want that fantasy, but we also want to do weird stuff. So yeah.
Remember, they mentioned
we're thinking
Planescape,
a
so
bit of the controversial point that we
this
don't
is-
want all classes to be able to.
it
do
sounds
everything
more
in the
like
game.
Roblox
the game will
than it does
definitely be
WoW.
homogenized if we have 50 classes that all do the same stuff, and so we're looking into putting time and energy and effort into classifying people as like certain kinds of DPS roles. Are you a 2-target sustained? Are you like a multi-daughter? And really making those classes feel really special. And if we have that in mind from the beginning, we can do things like make sure that our raids and our dungeons and our world has a good enough spread of those kind of DPS profile necessities that it's not just that, oh, these mages are the best because they can also do like instant burst and they can AoE. There's going to be like a good mix of encounters that are going to call for those different DPS profiles, so you can always feel good. And honestly, even if you don't feel good, it should be really freaking easy to play an alt. And so maybe it's not unheard of that you can just swap to your alt in the middle of a raid. I mean, we really want to reinvent.
Let's try it.
What alts feel like.
I think many of us have suffered in games where we want to play alts, but there just isn't the systems and the support to make it feel like it's a good use of your time. And so from day one, we talked about how can we make alts feel good in our game and make it feel like an organic, natural thing you can opt into to try a lot.
Just make sure all the unlocks are account-wide and not character-wide.
Yeah, upvote the rat catcher.
You definitely won't be an elf rat catcher.
Is that the
Spoilers.
next question?
That's actually a great question. Transition, Candace. And the good news, you all can't see this, but we have people theory crafting their rat catchers now. Someone named theirs Charlie.
I love it.
Yep.
So
Hey, we have a name.
it's going to happen now.
Yeah, I'm sure the Discord is up already.
So, Shanti, I think Candace's comment is a good question. We have not launched our game. We've not shown gameplay yet, but at Nary 5th is perhaps the first player that we've already lost. They write, "No elves, you can't do this to me." Do you have a response?
So we want to develop this game with players from day one. It's why we're all sitting here, cracking jokes and trying our best not to spoil anything. Over the coming years, we will say things that aren't clear. We'll try features that end up not working out. And that's just kind of the part of the journey that we want to take you upon. So in the spirit of that, let me clarify the elves comment, because this is one of the first things we heard was players who were like, but I love elves. We do too, actually. I can't remember the last game I played a human in, if there's any other option to play other races. What we don't want to do is transpose Tolkien's Lord of the Rings elves and dwarves and plop them into our universe, because we're making something from the ground up that is ownable and made to be in the shape the game needs it to be. So we're going to have some great races. They're going to call back to a lot of the fantasies and the reasons people like elves, like dwarves, but they're going to have our spin on it and be ownable for our IP in a way that we think you're really, really going to like.
Yeah, and if I could add something to that, Shanti, I think early development, it isn't always just being general about telling people things that have no context.
Yeah.
I mean, we could say early development and not say anything. But to your point, sometimes we are just saying what we're thinking right now and want to get that feedback.
God, what a production setup. There's a camera for
About
each
that
person in this
What is it about that
panel.
persona? What is it about
Seems
that
like.
that speaks to players so that we could better understand that and actually, figure out how to work those things into our game?
Yeah, and I want to double down on that, because I think it's so important to us that we understand the fantasies that these classes and these races are providing, so that we can learn what you love and then make sure that that's present in the game. And that if you have a fantasy of, I want to be like a class that loves nature and I use nature magic, we have that. If you just want the fantasy of an elegant, beautiful elf, there will be elegant, beautiful races, right? So I think it's really important that you keep telling us how you feel about our ideas.
So what I heard was, we're not building elves. We're building like 15 different kinds of elves. Perfect.
They're all rat catchers.
And they're all rat. And they have great abs.
All right, back over to you, Cam. Probably a quick question here, but a bunch of people have had it, including Vivid Gaming GG. Is our game built in Unreal or Unity or something else?
Yeah, so I think you can get pretty good results from building a custom engine. But if I said to Greg, hey, just give me 5 years and I'll get a triangle on the screen, that probably isn't going to fly. And so we're going to start with Unreal. Unreal is a great engine. It is not an MMO engine in a box. And so we have a lot of work to do, and we're happy to take on that work and to make a great MMO. But we wanted to start with a great engine. Unreal is a great place to start, and so that's what we're doing.
Okay, yeah, that's probably right. Not Unity. Fuck
Awesome.
Unity.
Thank you. All right, let's keep moving. Maybe actually, while we've got you, Cam.
But yeah, they're not. He's right. They're not going to be able to make their own engine. Like, yeah,
Will the game
it's going
be
to take
built around
years.
anti-cheat and work against bots? This is always an issue on economy and player experience.
Yeah, that's actually a great follow-up question, because that's one of the things that we will need to put a lot of effort into. That's really important. It's important to me. It's actually something that some of us on the team have worked on before. And so things like, if you call that client integrity, things like avoiding exploits, avoiding botting, avoiding dupes, things like that, that we'll put a lot of effort into that. I'm confident we can get that to a really good spot. And then the other side of that is actually content integrity. You don't want, like, I actually hope our game gets big enough that there will be data miners trying to like sneak into the files and work out what it all means. But like, we don't want that to spoil the game for people. And so we'll make sure that content is also protected if we've got a big story moment, or even if we want to just hide for gameplay reasons, like what is this upcoming boss mechanic, then we want to make sure that we put enough like content integrity tooling in place that can't get spoiled and that can't get data mined. So that stuff's hard, but I'm confident we'll be able to do a good job of it.
Cam, you're doing a great job answering questions. I'll just give you another one. This one's from at Scripe Wow from Social, who asks, do you plan on releasing the game in patches worldwide at the same time?
So short answer, yes. I think we want a worldwide community, and it's just better.
I mean, they can film in 4K and then cut. There's probably tricks. It's probably not like a billion cameras, but still, it's
practical reasons why that's
pretty swanky setup.
Different platforms, different countries, but wherever possible, we'll make sure the game and the patches are released.
I was expecting a webcam. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I don't want to get spoiled because someone in some other country.
I thought it was just gonna be Greg on a webcam.
Content, and then you
This is way more than I was expecting.
You've already heard about it, and so wherever possible, it'll be worldwide.
Except Australia, maybe we'll give it to them first.
They got flamingo. Look, there's a flamingo.
Australia first, and then the rest of the world.
Yeah, right.
That's crazy.
All right, Brian making the wisecracks over there, so you get the next question. This question comes from Denied, who asks, when it comes to characters and alts, will you have to level multiple different tunes like WoW and Guild Wars 2, or will it be more like Final Fantasy XIV, where I can have one character that can learn all jobs by changing stone or weapon combo?
Yeah, it's a good question. We touched on this a little bit before. I think we believe, RPGs, it's a lot about creating a character, and your class has a lot to do with the identity of that character. And so we do want character and the classes to be tied together. So if you create a character, it's going to be that.
You hear that, Final Fantasy XIV? Halinka says to suck it.
Customize it, you make it look that way. But we also want to have this ability to progress your alts or play a lot of alts. And so your progression will probably be more about you, the player, than necessarily your individual characters.
Well, that's good.
There's a balance there. It's a tricky problem to say, how much do you make time investment worthwhile so it feels like you've made this character more powerful, but at the same time is not a hindrance to you making multiple characters. So those are things we're always discussing. We're going to find pain points. We're going to hear from you on what you think makes an alt worthwhile. But yeah, our plan right now is to make characters and classes tied together, but also to make it pretty easy for you to switch classes.
Yeah, we have talked about this a lot. Some of the things that we really like about the Final Fantasy model is like how easy it is to swap back and forth from classes, and how much sense it makes. Like, oh, I have this different weapon now, and now I'm this different class. There are things that we could do that are inspired in that vein, but ultimately the thing that we like the most, and the reason we chose this direction, was like, we like embodying the entire fantasy of the character within a single character, in the sense that, like, if I want to play a Scourge character, and then I want that to feel like it's in the vein of, Scourge stuff. Yeah. Or I want to play my Tauren character or something, and that's going to feel very different. We want to give you like the full breadth of that fantasy, and I think the best way to do that, to deliver on that, is to let you play a lot of different races, to play a lot of different like fantasies to explore.
Yeah, I remember Shanti and I had some conversation about this at one point, and we were just joking around, but it was like things like, how do your characters interact with each other? Like, maybe you have a base and like you can go in and your rat catcher's doing the dishes or something.
Yeah.
You can like, it's like grab stuff out of their inventory or like do whatever. Like there may be creative things that we can do and explore that just make it feel overall always better to have more characters than worse, or like you're juggling things and did I do my dailies on this and whatever. So yeah.
And it was actually kind of hard to say that because we're a little bit afraid of promising things that we can't deliver on, right? Like, what if we can't make 15 different races at launch, or what if we can't even make 4 different races at launch? It's what we want to do, but the reality of like the development and trying to get to ship on time and what sacrifices you make to have those kind of things put in the game. Anyways, I just want to acknowledge it's like very hard for us to say these things when we're not 100% sure, and there might be a world where we only have 1 or 2 or 3 races that ship, but letting you know what's in our head and where our philosophy is at, I think, is what's important about like opening or staying transparent about our development process and developing out in the open. So
And we have more ideas than Ratcatcher. Let me be clear.
in fact,
you came up with more today, or
Ratcatcher might just be our anti-cheat system. Is what Cam said.
Oh, yeah, that's a good
It'll be
idea. Good
somewhere
call.
in the game, even
Good
if
call.
you can't play it as
Good
a
call.
class.
Brian, you took like a mix of W's and L's in chat for the alts versus not alts type thing. The
Oh
community
yeah,
was
well
fairly
I'm not
split.
surprised.
Probably the WoW players
Yes.
versus the Final Fantasy
I
players.
love alts. I don't like alts. I like playing one character, and that's the thing. We understand there are people who like making one character and playing that character only.
Yeah.
And so one of the things you have to make sure you're not letting happen is, well, to play this one character, I have to play lots of alts, right? I have to play lots of alts and drive it towards that one character. It's okay to say I play this one character and it can feed my other characters. Like that's a little bit more palatable than saying in order to make my Ratcatcher more powerful, I've got to play my Gunsmoke Ronin and my, my Swan Catcher or Swan Watcher. I don't know.
That's a new one.
There's a swan right there. I'm looking at a swan. There's the camera here and a swan right there. I want you all to know what is my experience right now.
So where's the rat?
Yeah.
I just want to say one more thing on that topic, which is like we are staying curious. So if there is something about having one character that is very appealing to you, very curious about what that is. We have some inclinations, like how easy it is to like share gear, and like is it more of like is it a fantasy thing that you want, or is it more of a logistics thing? Because logistics are very easy to solve, especially whenever you're building something from scratch. So anyway, that was a baller question. Thank you, John.
Great question.
Also, one last clarification. It's actually an
I think playing one character is just I play other video games, so I don't need to play a bunch of other characters.
All right,
Thanks.
Brian, while we're with you,
That would be what I say.
expanded
I'm
this
like,
one, so we're just gonna do
like
it.
some people just like they don't want to spend all their time in your game, just some of their time.
Will be like,
So I don't want
will
to play
there
other
be incentives
characters.
pushing players to be a part of open world PvP. Will there be
Just
a
too
ranking
much, man.
system,
Too much of
PG
one game.
arenas?
I think a lot to be decided there about the structure of PvP. There will be PvP. I think more of a focus on open world PvP, maybe blue shard PvP, so that every time you're going in, it's a little bit different. Maybe there's blue shard battlegrounds.
Like multiple characters
blue
assumes
shard
you have the
arenas.
time.
I think that's a
Like
kind
when I
of
go to
open
play
question.
character
I
2,
think
I'm like, I can
one
play
of the big
character 2, or I can
challenges
play this
in,
other video game
MMOs,
because
every
there's a
MMO
million of
has
them.
this. Honestly, any game that has a PvE progression system and PvP in it has this challenge of, are those two parallel progression
Unless
systems
like
or
progression
not?
is
And I
so
think that's
small
something
that like
we're
in a
really
MOBA,
gonna
I'll
have to
play
think
all the
about,
characters,
in
right?
my opinion,
Because
avoid, right? Like,
who
that
cares?
was always a
But
constant battle
depends how
in
much
other
content
games
there is
that
to
I've
do.
seen
But
of,
like Diablo, I'm gonna play a
well,
different
it's
class
PvP
next season.
or always
I'm
better
not
in
gonna
PvP
play all
situation,
5
it's a
classes
PvE
in
or
one
it's better in
season.
PvE situation.
You know what I mean?
So I don't know. I think we want to explore different ideas there and probably not do it the way everyone else has done it in the past. We have a fresh start, and we can make those types of decisions. So I don't think we'll see very structured PvP things like ranked PvP right out the launch. I think our focus will be more about creating a big world and a world that you can go fight in. And sure, there will be some systemic things that encourage you to go out and have some very dynamic fights, but more of a focus on the open world stuff before we get into a lot of the structured things.
And Brian talked about blue shard PvP. I just want to kind of like illustrate what that could mean. So the cool thing about blue shards is that they're like randomized, right? They're like different just for you. They're not the same experience every time. It's not like an arena where you know exactly where all the pillars are. You know exactly where you want to do all your opening. It could be really fun to play a map like Warsong Gulch, but you don't know where the capture points are, and you have to figure that out each time. And maybe sometimes there's some texture between.
Just remember, they're just starting this game. Like none of this could end up in the finished product.
Have those like private PvP experiences where you could.
They're telling you like
turn
their
on
thought
specific
process,
rules that
and
make
they're
things
doing
more
a
interesting for you.
transparent
Like,
development
what if we wanted to
process.
play-
So
if we had blue shard PvP,
this isn't
for
an
example,
announcement.
we say, okay, we want this to be kind of like a capture the flag style map, and we turn on that like hailstorm rule that we were talking about earlier, where like now I have to worry about getting to the flag, but I also have to worry about like building shelter and knowing where shelter is nearby. Blue shard PvP could be really, really fun, and we hope that we can deliver on that.
Awesome. Next one's over to Ed. Question, I am interested in hearing more about accessibility options. The key one for me is how targeting worked. Due to how I play because of my disability, I struggle with more action-based MMOs compared to easier tab targeting ones. I know we've talked a little bit about the targeting already, but maybe touching on our approach to accessibility.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, like, for me, accessibility is actually something I care a lot about, even though I don't have any disabilities or anything. And I think the thing that originally sold me on how like valuable and important it can be is to think of it from the perspective of 2 things. One, like accessibility in the sense of who can play your game, right? There are just, I mean, there are a ton of gamers who have various disabilities who basically can't play some of the games that they love because they just don't have the ability to control them properly or like whatever. I think like looking at accessibility through that lens, if we can solve, you know, important disabilities, like we can actually bring more gamers into our community that we otherwise wouldn't be able to get, which is awesome. Yeah. And I think the other angle that was really compelling to me when I was first learning about accessibility was the idea that like actually non-disabled players also benefit from accessibility options, right? Yeah. Options around difficulty, for example, or options around inputs, like even down to whether you can use a controller in our game could be considered in some ways an accessibility feature, right? Because some people don't have the dexterity with mouse and keyboard that they do maybe with controller. So I care about this a lot. I also
you heard
think,
that?
And,
This guy
and
thinks
sure
using a controller means that you're disabled.
That, like, accessibility is a big, deep space, and there are so many
all controllers are accessibility
so many
tools.
options you could try to like provide, right? And so, you know, on one hand,
there's
we
too
care
many
a lot
buttons
about
on
it,
a
and I think
keyboard,
we will
so you
definitely
can't
try to
handle all the
tackle accessibility
keyboard buttons.
features. Which ones and how deep we go and when we do them.
He said it, not me, by the way.
And
don't be mad at me
would
about
love
that
to hear
comment.
from players about the things that typically trip them up in games most.
Although, you know, I think it's
maybe
pretty
those
funny.
are the ones we focus on. I think this kind of speaks also to our live service model, right? Like we're hoping
It's because
to
on
build a
core,
game that
I
we're
get a
gonna
lot
evolve
of.
for
I don't get a lot of
long
flack,
time.
but I get
So
flack for
even
kind
though
of being
maybe
like putting
day one,
like
we serve
console
this
games
set of
because
accessibility
I'm like,
features
well, whatever.
over months and years and, you know, hopefully decades, fingers crossed, right? Like we can add more and more, and we can
I'm a bit of a PC
all the kinds of
elitist,
players
it's
who want
true.
to come to our community and play our game, which I think is exciting. So yeah, I
But
care
look
about
how
it a
many
lot.
more
I hope we
buttons
can
are
do
on my
that. I think
keyboard.
the
Look at my
targeting thing is a
controller,
great
guys.
example of where
Look how many buttons
we
are on my
can
controller.
help to make the game more accessible for players, especially existing MMO players.
That's also why we're excited to have someone like Ed on now to start thinking about this at the very foundational stage and really kind of build in with that thinking as we, you know, get into Engine for the first time and, you know, put the first things in our world.
I recorded that, so I'm going to play
boy.
it back. Whenever I get fired,
It's my new ringtone,
yeah.
It's good news for you, Ed. We're going to have a VOD of the whole thing. You can go back, clip out the parts that
Yes.
you want, put it in
Great.
your annual review. Next question over to you, Greg. This one comes from Ace of Sween, who says, I remember Greg remarking on the OG Plus podcast that WoW wants to be the only game you play due to the time commitment required. Time commitment is always an issue in MMOs. How will Ghost approach this challenge? We've also gotten a few questions in chat just sort of asking about like what a typical play session looks like. Are we thinking dailies and weeklies or other types of experiences?
I'm hesitating to answer this because I don't want to throw, you know, other games under the bus, but
All right, we got a lot of PC
generally
elitists in
dailies and
chat.
weeklies are kind of low quality content that are easy for developers to add. So when you need to make sure your players have plenty of things to do, you add more dailies and weeklies because it's, you know, you can play the same quest over and over and over again till you're, you know, really, really tired of it. That's not the framework we want to approach. Because we're telling the story in these chapter-based sessions, we're fine if someone finishes a chapter and pieces out until the next chapter comes along. That's great. Again, if you want to stay and play the game, we will have plenty of alternate activities to do. We think that re-rolling and pushing blue shards is hopefully going to be really fun and have a lot of activity, and you will get rewards from it, but it should feel optional. It shouldn't feel like every day I log in and I do my 4 blue shards,
I'll be using
then I
one
go do my
today.
daily quest, then I like do my long
I don't
ass,
not use them.
enchantment cooldown or whatever.
Specifically, some games are really good with it, right?
The tricky
Like
part of answering a
I'm not
question
gonna
like
play
that is
fighter
you don't
game
want
on a
to send the
mouse
message
and
to
keyboard.
the
But it has more
ends
has to
of the
do with
world
how
like, oh, so you're saying your game's
unresponsive
not going to have much
keyboard
to do.
can
Like,
be,
yes,
right?
there will be a
Like-
lot to do, but we really want it to be tailored around, as a
pressing
player,
multiple
how
keys,
much
the
do you want
keyboard,
to play?
they don't
You're
design
not
them
gonna be
like
able to
controllers. They
be
could,
the best
they
player
could like up
in
the standard.
your guild with the best gear. If you're like, hey, I like Ghost, but I only want to
But they
play a
don't.
couple hours a week. But you could still progress and you can still see the content and finish the story if you play a couple hours a week.
It's not
I
gatekeeping.
wanted to highlight one of the
It's
points that
poking
Trini and
fun.
Christina were talking about. Christina actually blew my mind the other day because we were talking about gameplay loop.
I'm not telling
correlate
anyone they can't play
why
games.
people
I
come
play
back to
games
the
with a
game,
controller, but
and,
it is
one of the things
it
that
is-
we were
it is
tackling
the
was like
baby
the
version of
weekly
mouse and
reset
keyboard.
model in MMOs and why they exist, and staying curious about like all their better alternatives. And so if we wanted this game to fit in your life, one of the things we could do is say, yeah, there's no raid lockout on raids. And like at first I was clutching my pearls because I was like, well, why will my guild log in every week? What will we do? But I think there's better reason. Like if you wanted to quit our game happy and full of gear because you've seen everything and then come back whenever we give you something else to give you, that's way more preferable than like you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving loot on the table if you don't clear this raid every week, if you don't finish all of your dailies. Like this is what we mean by fitting into your life. If you want to finish the game and move on, that's okay too. We're hoping that we give you a lot of stuff so that you don't like finish very quickly, or at least like you have optional things to opt into. But yeah, what's a world like where there aren't any cooldowns on raids, like loot locks and stuff like that? Would you have to redesign the meta of the world first race? Why, yes. Are we already thinking about this? Why, yes.
Good question, Candace.
And this is also like why we need your feedback. Like, what is it? If we were to do things like remove raid lockouts, why does that scare you? Why does that excite you? Love to hear more.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges that we're going to try and figure out is we want the game to fit into your lives. We know how important that is. We know you have busy lives full of other things to do. But also, we respect how meaningful it is when you've played a game for thousands of hours. And you want to be able to say, hey, playing this game for thousands of hours is very meaningfully different. My experience, my progression, you can see all the love and devotion I've put into this game. So that's something I think we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about in the coming years, how to balance those two things, because they're both important to us.
All right. Another question that came in beforehand that also a few people have asked in chat is broadly around the studio's approach to AI.
Here we go.
Asked,
AI
how
conversation.
much do you intend to use advancements in AI? Can that help make worlds and NPCs feel more
The controller vibration hurts.
Maybe over to you, Cube, and Cam.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's not if you have joint problems that happen. I guess you can turn it off.
Already
That's
pointed
the,
out. We have
the
such
fix.
craftspeople that are already in our studio.
Never considered that,
and even
though.
with NetEase.
Haptic feedback,
One of the things that we want
aggravating
to do
joint
with our
pain.
game is mold this with the community through those craftspeople's hands. So it's really important that we're bringing the right team together that is able to craft this amazing world, this amazing content that we want to create. AI has been tools that people have been using for a long time. And different things from things like Substance Designer, making procedural textures.
Said this yesterday.
Things like that.
Literally
Those are
said this
tools that
yesterday.
we feel more comfortable using, but tools that may potentially plagiarize somebody's work is not something that we would do, and we want to definitely keep that kind of published
He's
content.
TLDRing
in the
what I
hands of
explained
actual,
yesterday.
Artists and craftspeople.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that.
See,
as well,
I know
because think
things.
you did a great job
I
covering
drink
kind of
coffee
different
and know
different
things.
workflows.
I'm basically
Thanks,
Twitch's version of
You should
Tyrion.
keep doing a good job.
You should be an art director.
Yeah, that's right. But I think there's a whole other class of AI that, and specifically around machine learning, which I think is something that we could also look into. Like, here's an example. We're talking about these kind of infinitely variant
Interesting.
blue zones. Like, what if
Favorite
based on
ingredient
machine
quacks? I
learning,
only
we
played
can
2
actual
games. I don't have
it
that much of a
actually feeds
knowledge
back
of the
into
game.
system that generates these blue zones.
Actually, I
So,
played
like,
one.
you
We did a
use machine
tutorial in
learning
one game.
On players.
I hate the
fun,
cherry bombs, but of
effectively,
course
to
they're a
feed back
necessary
into What
mechanic.
is the next blue zone? What is the next blue zone? And so that's another example where I think we can fit it in without it being the kind of, I guess more controversial or predatory AI like you described.
We're not going to be one of those studios that says, look, we're only going to hire 15 people and have AI do the rest of the work. Like, we hear a lot of crazy promises about the future, and honestly, I think nobody knows, but we are going to hire a lot of great engineers and a lot of great artists and hand make a lot of our content.
Greg, while we've got you, a question that's come from a few folks, including Shambits Gaming, is partnering with players is a great value to have, but what is the actual strategy here? How do you intend to partner up, and what can we expect as players?
That's a great question. This is a brand new frontier. Like, many of our former employers never would have gone for something like this. So we don't have a lot of examples to follow. I think some of the indie games do a pretty good job here of saying, like, look, we want feedback early on. Tell us what's working, what's not working.
Yeah.
for the most part, our strategy is going to be oversharing. And we know that's not every player's cup of tea. Some of you
Greg must be
probably
listening to
not
Core
watching
too
the
much.
stream.
He must be listening
Some
to me and
players
my
out there will
oversharing
say,
too much.
You know,
And he's like, that seems like a great
I want to
idea.
wait until things are set in
And
stone. I want to wait
Scott
until I can
overshares
play the
too.
game and see
John
final art,
overshares
and that's
too,
great.
just
and we will
less
make sure
often.
you know when we're at that stage. But we also think
Core,
there
the
are people
oversharing
who are
show.
excited to kind of come along this journey, see how the sausage is made, watch us pivot as like our ideas don't turn out as awesome as we think, and we have to do something else. We have a lot of experience on the team talking to players. There is a challenge where we're not building a game by consensus, right? We're not going to like go out and vote like, hey, what should the next class be?
Yeah,
We'll
that's
ask for
good. That's
feedback.
good to hear.
We will marry that feedback with our experience and our intuition and, you know, the actual hard numbers that you get from watching players play test. Sometimes players say they're doing one thing and in reality they're doing something else. So
That's true,
it's helpful
too.
to have that information.
Sometimes
And
players are
just
like,
everything
if
else,
you
this is a
just do
great
this, we play your game, and then you do
part-
it,
a great-
and then nothing
a great
happens.
topic to give us feedback
And nobody
on, like,
reports on that
are you
shit
sick
either.
of hearing about our
You
studio
never hear about it.
values and you just want to hear more nitty gritty about like how much armor class does this class have? Do you want to hear more about blue shards? Do you want us to talk to you more? Like, this is not our last AMA. We are going to do some really cool things. I mean, I'll just say it now. We have a few interviews lined up with streamers you've probably heard of. We are going to do a podcast that we're partnering with our good friend Scott Johnson, where I don't know what the cadence will be, but every episode we'll talk a little bit about like what is it like doing a startup? What changes do you have to make? What are the challenges? It's really like making a documentary, like releasing the documentary as the documentary is being made. So yeah, another experiment. Maybe it will be
Pretty
terrible.
cool,
We
eh?
hope not, but yeah, definitely listen in and tell us what you think.
I don't. Oh, go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the other things I'd like to add to that is we're working on a project, we're working on a game, but in some of the early things that we're going to be sharing is going to be on the content, is going to be on, you know, where are we going to be able to go with some of the classes? What are some of the potential visuals looking like? How are we getting some feedback from what the audience may like from that? As great as Unreal is as a tool, we're still not necessarily ready to have playtesters just yet.
That's awesome. I
So
love the way
think
it
in
came
that
up
amount of
organically.
time, we will be kind of involving the community.
I wonder, has
in
Scott
other
been
ways,
blasting
like
it at
giving
all
them
yet?
glimpses
Is
of
this the first
what is
mention?
behind the scenes of creating.
I wasn't
you know,
sure if he
this-
was going to be
this-
here
this
or be a
class,
part of this
how
or
are we
not.
differentiating these zones, and I think that those are the types of things that we're going to be wide open, you know, for feedback. And I think, as you know, Greg pointed out, the feedback is definitely for us to consider, to talk about. We love kind of like just as groups, even questioning and having people consider things from one another. But we're still only, you know, a group of people. I think on our website we have like 14 people right now. So we'd love to get, you know, more information from the rest of the audience.
I think another one of our like strong values in the approach to partnering with players is that we understand not all players want to engage with us the same way. So we want to have lots of ways to get your feedback, get your input. So, you know, that could be, hey, we're talking to you right now, you're chatting with us, it's great. It could be, hey, we sent out some surveys.
Yeah,
It could
I
be
just
play
don't know
tests, it
if
definitely will be, but
you know, he said anything.
more on that later.
Scott, as far as I know, hasn't said
Greg
anything
remembers,
publicly,
when
but
I first joined Riot,
Greg just said it,
before
so,
coming here,
you know, it's out.
I reached out to
and
him.
you're the
I was
first to
like, can we
know.
get lunch? And like, I just want to like pick your brain. And I just remember like kind of
I'm just wondering if
over
Scott's even
Greg
watching or
because
not.
not
I assume
not
he is.
because you know he was a celebrity or anything.
smart.
Yeah, he's just so smart. No, but because seeing Greg and other awesome developers across the industry engaging with players about how games are made, why we make decisions certain ways, like it helps not only excite people who are just interested in game development, which I was and became, but also helps people understand like how did we get to the decision that we made, and like even if it's a bad one, right? And like it lets people give feedback in a better context. So I think, yeah, we're betting basically that there are a bunch of other players who, you know, are like little Ed, who might be interested in how the sausage is made and want to, you know, have a window into game development. And I think that'll be exciting, hopefully.
I do also want to give a shout out to Ashes of Creation for developing that in the open, and I think that is a good place to start. That's like they're kind of pioneering the path when it comes to that, and the reason that they're doing it is because they're crowdfunded, and they treat players as their stakeholders, right? Like, we're going to show you this update. They're going to be super out in the open. That's really cool. I think to add to that, we want to treat players not just like our stakeholders, but like our peers. We're all gamers. We're all MMO enthusiasts. I've been working on MMOs for 15 years, playing them for over 20. And so, like, that's what partnering with players means. It means treating your feedback as valuable as one of our own peers, but also treating you with the respect that you deserve as a stakeholder, as the person who's going to purchase our game. So.
Cool. Next question, I'm going to cheat again and combine 2 questions here so we get more questions. Probably over to Greg. A question that was submitted was, being industry veterans, do you worry this may cloud the vision of the product with the we know better mentality that seems to stagnate development, as we've seen throughout the industry in recent years? And related to that, question that just came in chat from Paddles is, Greg mentioned a long time ago about hiring talent with no experience to see a fresher POV on game development. Do you have any news about that?
Yeah, I mean, 100% this is a concern of ours. When you get industry veterans, you have a lot of experience and you know how to set up a game from scratch. It is easy to lose touch with what our players, particularly younger players, talking about these days. How do they interact with content? What kind of games are they even looking for? So, as Christina alluded to before, part of this is just talking to players, talking to younger players, talking to players from different demographics than we represent, talking to players in different countries around the world to kind of find out what's working for them. Do the current games they play, are they delivering? Is there something absent, a niche we can feel? We will do focus groups. We will talk to a lot of players. And yes, we will hire people with little to no experience. I just think that will be an awesome way to get a fresh perspective, some crazy ideas. We are not at that place yet. We are a remote studio, so we cannot offer a ton of direct mentorship. Our tools are currently the kinds of tools that veteran developers are comfortable using. So give us a little bit of time to catch up with that, and we will. You will find job recs on our website. I just want to caution you that we will probably get a lot of interest in those roles. So we can't hire all of you. I would love to, but we do want to stay as a smaller studio.
All right. Next question over to Shanti comes from at InnoShades, who asks, congrats to the team on the unveiling of the studio. On IGN, it was mentioned you want to avoid typical fantasy tropes such as orcs and elves. Do you have any other examples of tropes you want to avoid?
Dwarves,
gnomes,
halflings, dragonborn.
Love this question.
All the D&D races.
A lot of games lean on tropes because tropes are there for a reason, right? A hero overcoming some obstacles with their friends and being triumphant has been in stories for as long as humans have told stories. So we're not going to try to reinvent storytelling.
No, always been triumphant.
All tropes.
Like in
that being said, one thing we are very
Oedipus
excited
Rex.
about is the possibility of playing more in kind of the gray space between the good and the bad. We love it when you can understand why a villain may be doing something, even if you don't agree with it, or watching a hero that 2 seasons ago was your favorite, maybe starting to make some choices that you're not so excited about anymore. We want to be respectful of the passion and the love that players have for characters in the world, but we think there's a lot of really interesting area there in the gray that we can deliver awesome stories and incredible characters for you.
Yeah, and if I were to add to that, that's what I love so much about being able to have art partnership with IP and narrative, because it really helps drive what we could do visually, with that. Already when, Art has been sharing with the team on our kind of weekly cadence of, oh, what about this? Or, Shanti will start, throwing in some designs, and then Greg's like, oh, well, he gave me the go-ahead, so here's 20 more. And I love what we were able to kind of come up with and explore. And yeah, like it's just great having that from the very beginning of the projects, because it's only going to make what we're creating, both visually and for people to play, just more kind of a stronger foundation to grow on over years to come.
We've gotten a couple questions about sort of our approach to solo play versus group content. One of them is from Jagadorium, who says, what's your take on solo players? There are people who like existing in a shared world but have trouble finding time to filter a group of competent people to play with. Is the game built with loners in mind? Maybe over to you, Candace.
Sure, yeah. I mean, some of the stuff I touched on earlier about blue shards and being able to pick your difficulty, it's definitely more solo friendly. Will I say that you'll be able to do everything in the game and kill every monster by yourself? Probably not. But blue shards are a great answer to that problem, where you can roll a new blue shard, do as much stuff as you can, kill the bosses that you can kill, but then when it starts getting too rowdy, just dump it down the toilet, start the next one. Don't dump it down. Give it to the city, or blow it up, or do whatever. So I think blue shards give us a lot of access there, but also, like I had mentioned before, the red zones that we're going to do should be concentrated in just the things that only a big, like, contiguous open world can provide in an MMO. So things, Greg had mentioned, it's kind of like Timeless Isle if you ever played World of Warcraft, but the idea there is, like, there's always something to do, there's something you can jump in on, and you're always welcome whenever you do it. So things like world bosses that are rotating left and right. There's things like treasures to find. And so, yeah, I think that touching on both blue shards and red shards. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention was that we also want to explore leaderboard content, stuff like whenever you play Diablo and you say, like, well, if I think I'm the best paladin, can I do some greater rifts and find out if I really am the best paladin? And so hopefully there's a lot for you there too if you're a solo player, but definitely the game has solo in mind. Hopefully you're playing a lot of alts though, because that would be really cool.
Yeah, it sounds like a Valheim World of
There's
Warcraft
something
hybrid.
that comes to mind when I hear that
Where the
question
Valheim
too, which
stuff is a
like,
little bit more ambitious,
there
more
are definitely
Roblox
players who want to
style.
play solo, which is great, right? Like I think we've all probably been in that space where like I just want to like log in and like do a thing by myself, which is I think it's awesome. Yeah, it's how you feel now, yeah. But there are also players who would love to find a friend group to play with, and they don't have the right tools to do it, right? Like they don't want to be match made into a guild of like people they don't know, or like they just don't want to kind of go down that path. And you know, some players like me have been like super lucky to raid with a bunch of clueless gamers. Shout out Derez, you know, for the past 3 years or whatever in WoW Classic. But it's hard to find that group that you're really going to click with. And so like one thing we should be thinking about a lot is how do we build tools to help connect people so that they can find that group that they do want to play with them when they want to play with people, and then let them play by themselves when they don't want to, you know?
That's a great segue. Part of that actually is another superpower of the blue shards is that we can create roles within a community that don't exist in other MMOs. I think about the time that I played Rust. I cherish all the time I played Rust. I didn't like killing players. It's actually like a PvP elimination game, but I don't like to kill players. What I like to do is like organize all the stuff in our bags. Yeah. Be sure that everyone had like their raid ready. Here's your jacket, here's your food, here's your AK-47.
More like Valheim.
And sometimes when you log into the game, you're gonna have some like creepy like picture
I
of
like organizing shelves
a clown
in Valheim
looking at
too.
you, or a mural of Rick and Morty in our house. I kind of liked that role of just being like, I'm going to be the one that combines things. I'm going to be the one that like decorates our house and makes it look beautiful. I'll never go out into combat, and that's okay. And so like, when you think about being embraced by a community, you can be valued for more than just the DPS that you put on the meter or the healing that you do to the tank. And that's really important to us.
And I'll say just one more thing, and then we really will move on to another question. But also, all of those roles Candace is talking about can be asynchronous. Like, you can be the person that organizes the resources in your base. You can be the person that goes out and scouts and explores it all. So then the other people, you know, log on later that day. They find all these cool things that you discovered for them. And so in that way, you're playing solo, but you're really playing with a group. You're just not online at the same time.
Awesome. So what I heard is that Ed is going to help everyone in chat find friends if they need it.
Personally matchmake you. Hit me up.
That's really amazing.
They are now friends with each other already?
This is now an MMO dating sim.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll now that we know that that's going to happen, let's take another question here from chat. Muktwow asks, will there be a focus on everyone should be able to get everything, or will there be a discrepancy between the hardcore gamer investing all their time and the casual who just wants to have fun?
Just throwing that up there.
Anyone want that? I mean, I could start. We think exclusivity is cool. I think it's awesome when you have a sword that nobody else has,
So
or at least
Vince,
it's very
their
rare.
plan is
and then
to-
you
to
strut around the city
to say all this
call it
stuff
peacocking
very
when other
publicly,
people get to see that, and they're like, "Oh, you're awesome," or
which
maybe
includes
just,
like
maybe just very
the
lucky.
big
Swimming
ambitions they
doesn't.
have, which might not make it to the game,
Maybe just very
right?
lucky
But
that you got that.
they're going to be doing
I think,
these
again, when
AMAs and
players
these.
don't have
They're going to do
enough
transparent
do,
development,
they start
something
to
an
look
MMO
at,
company
I need to
hasn't done
find
before.
vested slot for all of my
So
equipment, and then when I do that, I'm kind of
the
done
idea
with
is
the
you're
character.
along for the whole
We hope we
ride if you
unask
tune
that
into
question
their
a little bit
broadcasts
by
and
having
whatnot
lots of
from the whole
items where you don't
development.
necessarily
So
know where they come from.
it's
They might
almost
drop
like
on a
this
blue
isn't an
shard.
announcement of a product
we
as much as it is like
have
a
lots of
meeting
different character classes.
they might
so
have, except
maybe
they're
you can be
explaining to
the
you.
what was your new class you just designed? Maybe you can be the best,
Australian swan catcher.
the best swan dancer on the.
So the
of
game
your
in 2
friend group, or
years
the best
could be
swan
it could
dancer
be
NA,
something else
or things
entirely.
like that. So
you
there should be
know,
a lot of different
but it's not going to be a
ways. Even if all
surprise
you wanna
because you're not
do
going to go. Well,
is-
2 years
is,
ago you said
you
it
know,
was this
compare
because
numbers to other players. There should be a lot of different
people
ways
are
to
going
do
to be
that. That's not
keeping
just
up with it.
about gear score DPS.
I think a lot like what Star Citizen's doing, except I think these guys want to
Thanks,
deliver.
Greg. I think the last question that we'll take
That
now,
would be the
and
most
I'll just
dangerous
go
realm,
meta
but
for
I
a
don't-
second,
I don't
just
get the impression
weird
these
voice
guys are
that
trying to
people can't
juice
see.
a bunch of nerds
We are
into
going to
keeping
keep
them
talking
afloat
to
while they
players
don't
as much
release a
as we
single
can. So if
product.
we didn't get to your question today, we will be back. We will keep talking to you. It's one of our core values.
They want to do it less than 10? Yeah. I mean, they want to do it less than 2 if they could, I think, but I don't know.
Where can we sign up for playtesting and feedback? Many of us have followed your team for years and want this game to be successful and can't wait to be part of the journey. Maybe to you, Christina?
Yeah, I love this question. And the answer is we're going to put something on our
And-
website so that you can sign up
and
on the
Scott's
website.
gonna be
We'll let you
part
know
of
when we
it.
put it up there. But I
So,
did want to
as a
give
Frog
a
Pants
little
community
more
member,
context here
you're-
about playtesting.
you're gonna be
in
hearing
particular.
about it.
So earlier I mentioned all the ways that you could engage in giving us feedback, whether it's surveys or focus groups or things like this, right? There will also be playtests, but in the beginning of game development, playtests are small. It's usually not a lot of people get in. We will, as the game grows and as we develop the game, open the playtest to more and more players, and we're very excited about that. But I think what I want to express is that not everyone will get to playtest this year, but stay with us and you'll get to playtest more, engage with us in the other ways, and there will be
I gotta talk to
lots
Scott.
of
I
ways
need to
for
get
us
into those
hear your
playtests.
opinions and put them back into the game.
All right, we want to thank you all for watching. We want to thank you for the all of the interest in the stream, the questions you gave us ahead of time, the questions you gave us in Twitch. We really appreciate it. You all are why we're doing this, and this is the start of a very long journey, but we will do as much as we can to keep you informed. And at some point, the person that owns this space is going to come barging in and ask what we're doing in their house. So I think at this point, we'll call it a wrap. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that was great. That was actually better than I anticipated. I thought it was going to be Greg talking on a webcam because they made it sound like a remote studio, and well, you know, it was a little more. It was a better presentation than I thought, but I think like going forward, it might be more of just like interviews and stuff. Like it might be a little less formal. I'm sure. I don't know. So you know about as much as I do. Scott is involved in the development of the some of the public content they'll be making. I don't have any more details than that. You are now as up to date as I am. I don't know what it's going to look like, except that it is likely to be like you know, focusing on like developer content and stuff. You know, Scott's wheelhouse. He's done one-on-one interviews before. I don't know what exactly they're planning in terms of content, and I don't want to take Scott's thunder away from him or just say things that are out of turn. So that's, you know, what Greg said is about as much as we can say, but I think that's very cool that he's going to be part of it. And like, I don't have any personally.
I like a good mount.
Oh, I like a good mount too. Personally, I don't have any involvement in it apart from, you know, Scott being involved, but I don't know, man. I'm kind of into it. I kind of hope at least I get friends and family access or something. I'm going to give my feedback. It's going to be great. I did look on their jobs page too, because I'm like, oh, I'm not employed now. Do they have anything interesting? And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't have qualifications to work for them. I'm going to stay on the outside, keep doing my thing. But it is pretty cool. He just put it in this announcement in Discord. Word on the street. Hang on, I'm going to go see. Oh, it's on Twitter. Cat's out the bag. I'm partnering with Ghostcrawler and his MMO studio, Pixel Castle, for a monthly podcast called Word on the Street, where Greg and I will have devs, artists, designers on to talk about development in very transparent ways. Yeah. Okay. So by the sounds of the format, then it's gonna be like its own show. So it's gonna be Greg is gonna be a podcast host as well as Scott, and then they're gonna feature people from the team. So technically, I'm not involved, but since Greg is on the network, I'm gonna feel free to, we might talk about Patrick or Randy or. We got to. John has to include him in the. Now must include him in Frog Wrestling. John now has to make a wrestler for Craig since he's on the Frog Network. Yep, Frog Wrestling, Greg Street. It's going to happen. So I need you to start a guild thing when this comes out. So never played an MMO before. Need friends? Wow. I mean, it's not going to be out for a while. I don't know what the plans are. But yeah, the MMO genre needs a game with a fresh take. No, I'm not going right back to no.
Nice.
Whoa, hey, Ramirez Plays. Thanks for the following of the internets. Yeah. Sorry, my head just emptied. But I think that it's exciting, whatever it may be. And who knows? Maybe I'll ask Scott if there's someone really interesting on him. Like, let me guest star on Word on the Street so I can talk about esports or something. I'm gonna let's try and turn their game into a MOBA because that's what I really like to play. Just kidding. I'm not gonna do that. Sorry, flushed your head out. My bad. Well, it's the voice thing, the lies deception thing. So iconic. Did they say on their website they plan on this development to go much faster than typical AAA? The idea is they're a small team, so they don't have the bureaucracy or concerns of a big team. That's how they're approaching this, which is true, right? So yes, they're trying not to have a 5-year development cycle, which means it may go out in early access. Like, I think the idea is they're going to release less, but sooner. But then more, think Warframe. I think the best model for this is probably Warframe. I don't know how many years Warframe was built before going out, but I definitely know that company was in rough shape before Warframe came out. And Warframe, if you go back and look at like when Warframe was first like announced to like launch on Steam and stuff, it didn't look very good. And I didn't try it till like update 8 maybe or 11. When it was like they got a small fan base of people who liked it, and they just kept building. Now the game is like it's a big snowball. I think Warframe is the model you look at for this. Hey, Retech, thank you for the subscription with your Prime. Appreciate that as well. I think Warframe is what you're looking at in terms of like if you want a model for what they're thinking. The impression I get, all subject to change. They're just starting their little project, but my guess is they're going to release. You're not looking at like a giant WoW X-Pack release with tons of shit along the way. It's like, here's update 1, here's update 2. I think they said a number of indie games does it. Valheim did it. They released with only 5 biomes. Satisfactory is constantly having updates. Like, you look at a model like that where it's like the game's never complete. They're just constantly adding stuff, and they made a modular design, which sounds like a mix of a survival game and Roblox. Like, it's not guild housing, it's not player housing. You have your own MMO world. Sounds like what they're thinking. Other players can participate in it. You can set the rules by which it runs. You build, and I think you go out into the overworld, which some of it apparently is going to be procedurally generated, or like there's different shard, like there's a way they want things to feel fresh and new, and they have some ideas on how to do that. So you go out there, gather your resources, haul them back to your shard where you get to do things, and then just keep building and building and building on that. I wonder if that's also not what the Blizzard project was in some form. Whether that was batted around. Like, this is clearly something Greg is passionate about. And I wonder if that wasn't something that someone else sort of worked on while at Blizzard. And I'm surprised, quite frankly, we didn't hear anything at BlizzCon. They made a big... Was it before the pandemic when that got announced? They made a big thing about it, and the guy who was lead on it left Blizzard, Sean Gibson, which, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but you'd figure, it's a rough thing when your lead, who was very passionate about the project, is now no longer there. Maybe there was some involvement with the SE thing. I have no idea. I don't want to speculate too much, but it's hard to know, and companies are not that transparent about these things. But I'm surprised that BlizzCon turned out better. I was really unhappy with the opening ceremony, and it just turned out that the panels, like, everything turned out to be a lot better afterwards. The Warcraft panels were really good. I watched Overwatch and Hearthstone, but I'm not super interested in any of that, so it's kind of just whatever to me. And the D4, they meet all the time, so it doesn't really... The D4 panels didn't really matter because they're doing fireside chats all the time. It was just another fireside chat, and they didn't have a lot to bring to the table. But, in a few weeks, there'll be more details. So that was fine. It was just fine. The Warcraft stuff was very positive and hopeful, and it made the game very enticing, actually. But I was very shocked that we didn't get any details. Not a mention, not a name. Like, I don't even think it got mentioned. Like, yeah, remember, hey guys, don't forget, we announced that survival game, and it's coming. Pretty much like, let's just not talk about this other thing. Heroes of the Storm got as much love as whatever that new game was. You know what I mean? Like, fine, like, don't even have anything. I don't even think it got announced. Not even any new art. Not a little reminder. You remind your clients, by the way, clear your calendars because we're working on this thing too. Like, why would you ignore something that's new and exciting that you announced completely? It's crazy. It's just crazy to me. They mentioned StarCraft more than they mentioned that new game. Phil Spencer literally said, hey guys, how about that StarCraft? And I'm pretty sure Yubera did too, although I don't remember precisely. But StarCraft did get mentioned. I was listening for the IPs, right? I didn't hear a single Heroes mention. I heard StarCraft. I did not hear the new survival game mentioned. StarCraft definitely got mentioned. Not like there's many IPs to reference for Blizzard, because, they're a house of very few. It's fine. They're big and robust and have tons of products. But, yeah, I would have mentioned my new game that I got everyone excited for years ago to check in and let people know, oh, hey, here's this game, by the way, because I was actually very much looking forward to it. It sounds like what they're kind of talking about. This Fractured Pixel? No, it's not Fractured Pixel. Fantastic Pixel Castle has talked about today. That's why I sort of bring it up. It's because it's a survival game and an MMO in the WoW style at the very least. And then the survival game is some hybrid of Valheim, Rust, and like Roblox. And they referenced Planescape. I think the Planescape was very much a deliberate sort of nod. Planescape is a beloved D&D franchise. But a lot of people don't know it, including me. Like, I've been aware of Planescape, but until you really unlock, the fun of Planescape, like, I don't know, it just kind of just feels like, oh, we're doing multiverse, which it's not. It is multiverse, but it's not. It's a way to space connect medieval worlds with the astral plane and turn it into cyberpunk. It's pretty much medieval cyberpunk. Although I don't know if they're going. Well, they might be going medieval cyberpunk as well with this MMO. It's medieval cyberpunk where the missions you undertake are the hell and heaven and maybe other worlds. Who knows? You got to go to take portals. And portals, the one thing about Planescape that is also noteworthy is that you can't just open portals out of there. The Lady of Pain controls the portals, or I don't know. There's some sort of, I can't remember that little bit actually, but it's, you got to find them. The portals need to be found. Hey, Nomad Unit, thank you for that. And it's like, you got to find it by, like, let's say there's like a door. So you got to knock 3 times, say the word bastard, and then click your heels, then open the door and the portal appears. Like, it's like finding broken areas in video games. That's like before video games were even a thing. That's how Planescape works. That's how you got to find the portals. And then when people find portals, they're valuable. People aren't just like, hey, there's a portal here, use it. They hide them, charge money for them. They're big secrets. And if they get discovered, those portals are closed because the Lady of Pain is not a big fan of the rest of the gods. And it's a big neutral ground. But there's just so many portals that opening up all the time. And I think it is possible to open portals, but it requires like a high level of either access or magic. I don't remember that little bit. I need to brush up back up on the books. But Planescape is amazing. So it sounds like that some baseline is what they're using their inspiration. You have your own pocket world, and you go out into other worlds to do missions and discovery. Didn't you mention a Lady Pain in TWB? Yeah, I mean, a portion of our D&D campaign was set in Planescape. When everyone died and I wanted to wait to make the game continue, that's when I started really discovering the Planescape books, and I said, let's do that. Yeah. So, but it was like, I didn't use any adventure material. I just used like lore and like, yes, the Lady of Pain is central. You cannot set, like, there's nobody who doesn't know who the Lady of Pain is in Sigil. You have to, you have to, you are warned because she's the ultimate ruler, and she doesn't follow rules. She rules like she's not good, not bad, not selfish or tyrannical, but not benevolent either. She is a mystery wrapped in a mystery, and there definitely are rules that you can violate, which I forget them, but they generally involve the unbalancing of things for the most part. Within her realm. And I believe she started it as a refutation of the gods, being a god herself, but being I need to look into that, but mostly she's just a mystery. Nobody knows anything about her. And she's usually depicted as a moving an unmoving statue. Like, think the weeping statues in Doctor Who, like pretty much that. No one's ever seen an entity. I haven't played Planescape Torment, so I'm not sure how they would depict the Lady of Pain in that, but I believe that's how it works. I am interested in picking up the Planescape books for the 5th edition D&D. I think they'd be... I kind of would hope... I mean, the 2nd edition books are, like, just so iconic. I prefer those, but I would read them. Yeah, Scott's just posting it everywhere. That's great, though. He's been looking forward to announcing it forever. Basically, I was doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Although, did anyone clip that by chance? I want to send the clip to Scott. Of the, I don't know if he was watching or not my stream. I assume no, but yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks for watching, guys. I'm staying online. I'm going to be playing some Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. That's coming up next. if you are interested in such a thing. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, though. Erase his name. I'm just updating my my streams here. Edit. Okay, sorry. You're probably gonna fire up. I can tell he was excited when he teased it. Oh yeah, for sure. I'm assuming not, but has he? Yeah, like I don't know. It's got to be coming soon. But there's a if you just look for his Twitter, the information's up there. You probably gonna fire up Classic WoW Lurk though. All right, cool. I'm just going to see if we have a clip here or not of the moment. Scott, oh, someone made a clip. Perfect. Thank you, the Grim Gopher. Let's see.
Do some really cool things. I mean, I'll just say it now. We have a few interviews lined up with streamers you've probably heard of. We are going to do a podcast that we're partnering with our good friend Scott Johnson, where I don't know what the cadence will be, but every episode we'll talk a little bit about like
how do I watch
a startup.
Oh, I push this button here.
Do some really cool things. I mean,
all right, hang on. In case
really
if
cool
he wasn't
things,
watching live,
I'll just say it now. We have a few interviews lined up with streamers you've probably heard of. We are going to do a podcast that we're partnering with our good friend Scott Johnson, where I don't know what the cadence will be, but every episode we'll talk. What are the challenges? It's really like making a documentary. Like releasing the documentary as the documentary is being made. So yeah, another experiment. Maybe it will be
pretty
terrible.
cool,
We
eh?
hope not. Do some really cool things.
All right. Anyway, sorry, I just want to see it. Yeah. So I'm gonna switch on over to Game Cam. I'm gonna take a smoke break, and we're gonna run some ads. If you want to avoid ads, I run 3-minute ads manually at the top of the hour. If you want to avoid ads, the thing to do is to subscribe. If not, you'll just have to endure them. So here we go. And the reason, well, I guess the ads are running, but the reason I run the ad, I'll explain it when people come back. 3 minutes ads probably started now. Okay. All right. Game capture. Oh, that's for the king. Already an update. Community update already. Sweet. Gotta play another game of that. But, yeah, Like a Dragon, the man who erased his name, coming up in a quick sec. I'm just going to go grab a smoke. I'll be back. Well, Scott, Scott's friend, business contact, has started his own company. He did an AMA today. So they just announced him. Well, did a good Q&A.
Yeah.
Scott's also doing a podcast with him to interview people on the development team.
Yeah.
So that'll come next too.
Cool.
So we're just doing a live reaction.
Oh, but you're talking to Mike. Say everything's up live.
So I just had the mic's open. I didn't mute it.
Mike.
No, not this microphone.
Okay, I understand. Now you know why I was so confused with what we were telling. I'm like, what does this have to do with me?
Bill on the front. Alright guys, hello again. Never fear, I am here. Okay. Oh, sorry, talking to the stream. Okay. I got water, got coffee brewing. Move that to a safe location. Okay, so the man who erased his name. That's what we're going to be playing. I think I got it all set up on the different streams and such. Okay. Dragon Gaiden. Okay. Sorry, I'm just getting everything set up here. Oh, where's my control? Real Yakuza use a control. I guess it's got to unpack all of its encrypted stuff. Oh, my legendary fighter pack. Alright, we got Goro, Majima, Sejima, and Daigo Dojima. Alright, we'll have to try that later. I like the menu screen, it's awesome, dude. This menu screen is so good. Alright, here we go. I guess they don't have... Oh, wait, I didn't see anything. Yeah, I think it's only Japanese right now in the game. No English voices at launch. It's a work of fiction, guys. It's not a historical document. Just FYI. Game wants you to know that. Ungi.
じゃあ私はこれですみません。お先に失礼しますね。
よ見ろよあれ。
大丈夫か？ええ、お待たせしてしまって。
今店を出た。車はまだか？
急な追いつけだったもんでな。お嬢様の具合は？
問題ない。そっちがすぐに来れば。
了解。あと5分くれ。
少し車を待つ。
ごめんなさい。やっぱり気分が。時間がかかりそうならタクシーを。
わかった。通りまで行ってみよう。
飲みすぎちゃったみたいで。祖父には内緒にしてくれます？
余計なことは言わない。
ねえ大丈夫？よかったら俺らが女の子を送ってくよ。
いいんだ。間に合ってる。
うちすぐそこなんだ。タワマンの30階。おいでよ。みんなで介抱してあげっからさ。
おい。おさむくんが親切で言ってくれてんのに無視かよ。
どうも僕がおさむくんでーす。
どけ。俺一人でよけりゃ後で好きなだけ付き合ってやる。
何舐めた口聞いてんだおっさん。
トラブル発生。車はまだか？
到着まで3分。何があった？
後で話す。少し休んでるといい。
大丈夫なんですか？
俺らはこんな時のために呼ばれてる。
どっかいいとこのお嬢様なのかな。大丈夫。うちの親もね、聞いたら絶対知ってる会社の社長。いいの。俺らに手出したらただじゃ済まないよ。
お前らも今回り右すりゃ無事に帰れる。さもなきゃこれから起きることは全部お前らの選んだ結果だ。
おさむくん、こいつやる気だよ。
まあおじさんはお仕事でやってんだろうしな。それにさ、恋ってのは障害があるほど燃えるもんだ。さあお嬢様にいいとこ見せちゃおうぜ。
Yes. Best tutorial ever. Thugs. X to attack. X to attack, then Y. Grab manage B, then attack. Left bumper to guard. Move while holding a fighting stance with the right button. Hold your ground with RB and dodge with A. The spider gadget ejects the thin wire from a watch. You can perform actions such as capturing, pulling enemies and weapons. Press and hold B after dodging with... Try tapping the B to shoot the gadget. Pressing left trigger while drawing weapons like signs. Press LS. Well, you want to fight me? What a weapon. Got him. Nice.
よせよせよせよせ俺の車マジかよお前誰に手出したか分かってんのかただじゃ済まねえぞ
案外優しいんだな。
はあ
自分がこれからどんな目に遭うかより俺を心配してくれんのか。
いや
ちょっと待ってください。思い出しました。あなたマルヒナの社長の息子さんですよね。
マルヒナってあの有名な商社か。
どうしてそれを
去年祖父の誕生パーティーに来てくれましたよね。お父様と一緒に。
えもしかしてあなた荻窪幹事長のお孫さん。
ええ。
これはとんでもないことを申し訳ございません。
今夜は留学先の中東の友人が日本に遊びに来ていたので初めて六本木に来てみたのですが、あなたたちもよく遊びにいらっしゃるの？
いやいやいや僕らもたまたまです。本当に何とお詫びをしてよいか。
いいえ、私もこんなに酔ってしまって。お互い今夜のことは忘れませんか？
もちろん。私は今夜何も見ていませんし誰とも会ってません。私どものことも幹事長にはご内密にしていただけますか？
ええ。
はありがとうございます。本当にすみませんでした。
よかったのか、あんなやつ見逃して。
気にしないで。そんなことより今はもっと大事なことが。お願いだから早くどこかで私を休ませて。
おい、車どうなってる？いつまでかかってんだ？
もうすぐあと3分。
3 minutes?
さっきも3分って言ってたじゃねえか。
Still?
気持ち悪い。
not the man till you beat the master. You got the plan, then we get the action. I got the answers to what you're asking, but can you handle a hand to hand? If you're not advancing, there's no advantages. It bring madness, sinking up with the savages. With bad habits, by the way of the dragon, the fight within. Get ignited from real passion, the tires within. Heavy wind, I've been traveling. Now you know me as somebody that you never knew a face. She ain't never seen a ghost to my old truth, burning through the pages of my soul, leaving no proof. Only ashes whisper for the memory of my past, but it's no use. And if I got a second chance, I had no clue. I'm in the shadows, hiding where I'm supposed to. And you probably wouldn't believe it if I told you. The only way you gonna see it if I showed you.
Walking alone, lost in land, running from home. One chance, righting the wrongs, no one understands them. 間違っているかどうかが道しるべとなっていた頃の空はどんな色涙で流れること諦めたような悲しみさえおえつにもなることを拒んだあの時の叫びさえ僕を殺すこともできす今日ののと生かすの切らすことなく注がれるこのガスを報われるかどうかで選ぶ選択肢変わるわけないあるはずないだろうバカ見るかどうかは俺次第全ての間時の中で僕らいつか笑えるかな
任務ご苦労様でした。ただその後がよくありません。おつまみとはいえもう少し野菜は取らないと。
いつでも俺を監視してるってわけか。迎えをよこさなくとってもう戻るつもりだった。
そうでしょうね。もちろん疑ってなどいません。この車は禁煙ですので。
さっきの店でもっと吸っときゃよかったな。シャバの空気を。
I wonder what's going on.
うお前は極道の世界に仇を巻き込む外道だ。
地元で不甲斐女とガキを殺せ撃ち殺せ
見えるか桐生一馬君。つい今しがた大道寺実先生が亡くなられたと知らせがあってな。
誰だあんたは。
私は政治家としてのイロハをすべて大道寺先生に教えられたものだ。
口封じの賄賂ってことか。
いろいろ調べさせてもらったよ。養護施設のことを気にかけているんだって。それを気持ちよく受け取って全ての秘密を守るという意志、それさえ示してくれればいいんだ。
全てを秘密にしたいのなら俺の条件を飲め。
なんだと？自分が何を言ってるのか分かっているのか？なめるなよ。命が惜しくないのか？場合によってはお前が大事にしている人間も巻き添えになるぞ。
やってみろ。いろいろ調べたんだろ。俺を本気で怒らせたらどうなるか試してみるか。
なら貴様が秘密を守るという保証はどうしてくれる？
死んでやるよ。
何？
あんたの力で
Hey Kusanagi, thanks for the sub.
死亡届を作ってくれ。そうしたら俺は一生消え続けてやる。
Sorry, I'm enthralled right now. I don't have a lot to say. Alright, here we go. Chapter 1, Hidden Dragon.
Today, もご精が出ますね、桐生さん。そう思ったんなら声をかけねえもんじゃねえのか。これ式で雑念が入るようでは修行と言えませんよ。
なかなか手厳しいですね、花輪さん。
この人はただの居候ですから、住職もどうかお構いなく。
花輪。
お気遣いありがとうございます。
次の仕事が入りました。コードネーム上流としてのね。仕事ならこの間用心棒に行ったろ。荻窪豊の孫娘のとこに。何ヶ月前のことですか。あと荻窪先生は我々大道寺一派の中でも指折りの実力者。呼び捨てはご遠慮願います。会ったこともねえのに先生は無理だ。伝説の極道だったとはいえ、あなたはもう少し立場をわきまえるべきでは。ここでずっとただ飯食べてるだけでは居心地も悪いでしょう。俺はあんたらの秘密を墓まで持っていくと誓った。はい。大道寺実ってフィクサーが戦後から死ぬまで政治経済を裏で牛耳ってきた歴史、そいつを蒸し返されたくなきゃ俺らはお互いに犠牲を払う必要がある。俺は自分の死を偽装して人生も名前も捨てた。あんたらは俺の飯代だけだ。ただ飯食べてるだけってのは言い過ぎじゃねえのか。飯代以外に朝顔へ援助していることもお忘れなく。沖縄のあの児童養護施設はずっと資金なんですよ。大道寺からとバレないよう匿名の口座をいくつも使ったり手間をかけて寄付してます。大した額じゃありませんが、急に打ち切ったら子供たちが不憫ですよね。
なかなかいい勝負ですな。
仕事は年に数回の頼みです。それにあなただって我々に敵でないと示し続けた方がいいはず。約束とはお互いの信頼によって支えられます。そして信頼は日々のコミュニケーションによって育まれる。ご心配なく。例によって簡単な任務ですよ。汚れ仕事でもない。これでもあなたのことは特別扱いしてるんです。
敬意を表してね。さて、今回の任務を端的に言えば密輸の警護です。
その時点でもう違法に聞こえるな。
元極道が固いこと、別に誰かを傷つけたりするものじゃありません。依頼主は某アジアの独裁政権下で反政府組織をまとめるリーダー。我々の目には自由を求める革命家ですが、その国ではテロリストとされています。